we make an assumption about the nature of the world, and that assumption is that the world is material, that it's substantial. This belief is a very difficult one to let go of, and it's the one that Ram's asking about. And in the last video, Vasistha gave us a couple of techniques for appreciating the insubstantiality of the world. Ram asked, when such belief has weakened, what does one see? How does this world illusion cease in his vision? When you first read about this kind of thing, it's difficult to avoid the assumption that when you go over this belief, when you actually experience for yourself the insubstantiality of the world, that you enter into some kind of mystical state, that perhaps you can even perform miracles, like walking on water, or walking through walls, or flying through air. Such a person has surely realized the insubstantiality of the world. But it's not like that. It's a bit like realizing that the water is a mirage. And the only power that this gives you is that you're no longer being driven by the mirage. You realize its nature, and you realize that it can provide no satisfaction. So you're no longer caught up in it. This is the power you achieve. It's freedom, the power of freedom. So the world appearance does not disappear. What happens is your own sense of being starts to shine. It comes into focus. It comes into, well, I won't try and say anything more about it. Vasistha replied, in his vision, the unreal world appearance has the character of a castle in the air, or a painting which has been washed by rain. His mind is free from Vasana, or of psychological conditioning. Vasana is that tendency by which we leave our sense of being behind, and we get caught up in our notions of the world. We get caught up in the world mirage, the world illusion. And Vasistha describes it as a castle in the air. It's something that's been constructed by our mind, notional, all notional. But this is an interesting metaphor that he's got here, a painting which has been washed by the rain. I think the idea here is that it's a mess, and there's no point in trying to make any sense out of it, because it's not worth it. The illusion has gone. The power of the illusion has gone. All the beautiful and skillful strokes, brush strokes of the painting have dissolved. They're no longer enchanting us. They're no longer capturing us in their enthrallment. Rama asked, what happens to him after that? And again, the naive idea is that this person disappears into a world of bliss and sits there in cross-legged nirvana. Vasistha replied, the world appearance which exists as a mere notion fades away. Soon he is totally free from limitations and conditioning. In other words, the person is free. But they don't dissolve into bliss or anything like that. They carry on. It can be a problem deciding what you're supposed to do next. I suppose it's a bit like having a terminal illness. say you've got cancer and you've been given 3 months to live, then what do? I think most people that have come to terms with it just get on with their ordinary life. Perhaps there might be an initial celebration. You do all the things that you wanted to do, spend much of your money. This is the initial bliss. But then you just get on with your life. Not out of a sense of resignation, but simply out of acknowledgement of the reality of the situation. In a way, I suppose you could say it's resignation, but the phrase tends to have an air of defeat about it. But it's actually a triumph. It's a triumph of realization. Rama asked, surely this conditioning has gained deep roots on account of being revived in very many lifetimes. How does it cease? Well, obviously Rama's talking about the cultural belief that there's lots of different lives that we've led. And in each life we have this belief in the materiality of the physical world, of the external world. And this belief gets reinforced over eons. So how do we get rid of this conditioning? Vasistha replied, by the realization of the truth that all objects and substances exist in the self or the infinite consciousness as perverted notions. His hold on those substances, and vice versa, comes to an end. The wheel of samsara stops by and by. So it's all mind created. We can understand that any way we like. And it's not the notions that are perverted. It's the fact that we are perverted in turning to these notions and accepting these notions as our reality. So we have to turn again from the notions. We turn our awareness and our emotional drive away from these notions and realize our essential awareness. So the wheel of samsara stops by and by. It takes practice. It's spiritual practice. It's the practice of enlightenment. Rama asked, what happens then and how does he attain peace? Vasistha replied, when thus the illusion of solidity of the objects has ceased, and even the effort at restraining that illusion has ceased, all reliance on the world comes to an end. This is all reliance in the sense of looking for satisfaction in the world. Rama asked, when this world appearance exists as an idea in a child's mind, why does its cessation not cause sorrow? Vasistha replied, how does sorrow arise when an imaginary object is lost? Hence, as long as there are thoughts, notions, concepts and percepts in the mind, one should be engaged in inquiry into their nature. Some people might think, well, I don't want to let go of all this. I'm too attached to it. It'll be sad to let go of it. But when you realize its insubstantial nature, and when you're once again established in your own sense of being, such concerns disappear. You might as well grieve when you wake up from a dream, that the dream has finished. There's nothing to grieve for, only greater peace, only an ever beckoning greater peace.